Hello, people of the internet. So we're going to do a little bit different today. We're not going to work on anything. We're going to talk about stuff. I want to talk about taps, rethreaders, and specifically metric hardware, or at least how people reference metric hardware. We'll get metric hardware out of the way. I don't know why it bugs me when people refer to metric hardware by the head size and not the thread size. We don't do it with SAE. We don't go, oh, hey, take that 9/16 bolt out. No, we say take that 3/8 bolt out. I'm not saying you need to be specific on the thread. You don't, nobody says take that 3/8 fine thread out. Take that 3/8 18 out. Take that, nobody says that. So don't be like, you got to take that 8mm 125 out. That's ridiculous. But when you reference hardware, and I'm picking on metric because this is what I always see. You watch videos on people doing stuff, and they go, "You take this 8mm bolt out." No, it's a bolt with an 8mm head, and depending, it's probably going to be a 6mm bolt. Okay, this probably is going to be a 6mm bolt, maybe a 4mm. But when you reference hardware by its head size, that starts to get real misleading and real confusing real fast, because so there's industrial sizes for a non-flanged head bolt, so a bolt that doesn't have an integrated washer in the head. And then there's going to be a industrial standard for a typical flanged head bolt, which is generally going to be smaller. So let's say like if the fastener you're dealing with, the standard bolt head, it is 13 millimeters across the hex. A typical standard flange head is probably going to be like 10 millimeter or 11 millimeter, something. It's going to be slightly smaller. Then you can get into stuff where it is like specialty stuff where it's specialized undersized on, that. So when you have all those variances and you talk about it that way, it gets confusing, it's misleading, and it really makes everybody sound kind of doop-de-dooped. Like, I like being doop-de-dooped, don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. Probably doesn't come through because I'm not charismatic, if you're from my generation. But yeah, you know what it is. Like I say, when you're dealing with SAE, who do you know that if they're taking a 1/4-inch bolt out goes, let's take that 5/16 bolt out. They're, 1/4-inch is 7/16. I don't have a script. Don't pay attention. But you get what I'm saying, I think. Don't reference the thread, not the head. There's a time and a place for head. It's not dealing with bolts. Okay? Next, I'm going to talk about taps, rethreaders, and probably why everybody kind of uses them interchangeably. Air compressor kicked on. We'll be back in a minute. All right, before we get into taps, just as an example, as these were handy. So we got a standard style 10mm bolt, and we got a flanged head 10mm bolt. So the standard one, there are, conventional hex, not flanged. Let's see, will that focus? That is a 17mm. Nice and functional. Go to this, because where is it on here? Come on, Snap-on, don't fail me now. This is a 15mm. Sorry. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You know, the thread's the same on them. Let's see if I can, you know, same there. It's the same size bolt. Just if you reference it by head, you got a 17 and a 15, while they're both 10 millimeter. So that's why you don't reference fasteners by the head size and you reference them by thread size. Okay, anyway. So kinda. Okay. This is obviously a standard tap and die set. Or by standard, yeah, it's a basic. You got some metric, you got some SAE. It's there. This is a rethread kit. These are thread files. You should own thread files at the very least. Again, metric and SAE. Now, for quick rundown, as I'm not going to go into all the types of taps and everything like that. Generally, you have this style tap, which is a point, and if I can get it to focus, there's focus for me. As you can see, the threads, the cutting threads don't actually start until part of the way up, and it's chamfered, or tapered anyway. Now these are, I think technically they're called taper taps. I've always called them starter taps. That's what most of the people I knew called them, was starting taps or starter taps, because when you have a fresh hole, the taper on it just helps everything out. Then you have like this style tap, which if you notice, it does have a, let's see here, maybe you can notice, it does have a bit of a taper, but the threads go much further down. Let's see, what size tap are you? You're 1/2 inch. As you go up in tap in thread sizes, sometimes it's harder to tell, but you can see this one, these are both 1/2 inch by the way. This one has the taper and is missing the threads. That way you can get it centered up in the hole better before it starts cutting. This one is bottoming tap again, and that's designed to go exactly what it says. It's designed to run threads all the way, or virtually all the way, to the bottom of the hole, because as you can see, one will cut deeper than the other one will. I don't have any plug taps, or at least I couldn't find any handy. This is a pipe tap. Remember, pipe thread is tapered. That's what helps it seal. Especially when you're dealing with pipe dies, make sure that you don't over thread. There's a specifications on that, how far this needs to go to thread, whether you're doing male or female, because of the taper. That way you don't break anything. These, let's see here. These are rethreading taps. If you notice, they go down more like a bottoming tap. But if you look, and that's not going to be a good example because the threads are different. What size are you? You are a metric 10 millimeter 1.5. So you should be this guy here. What we got? Nope, wrong side. I'm prepared. Nope, I don't. Yep, 10 millimeter 1.5. There we go. I knew I'd get to it eventually. Only so many in the box, right? If you look, you can see a huge difference between it and a starting tap. And I haven't cleaned that one very well. You should clean out your taps too when you get done using them. And there's also a difference between it and a bottoming tap. Now, pretty much everybody, you screw up a thread, you grab your tap, you run your tap in. It's fine. Works. It's been done for millennia on end. The problem in some instances is that taps and dies both, are designed to cut threads in fresh material. So that means that this is a cutting tool. This
is a cleaning tool. It is not designed to cut threads. It is designed to go in, or in the case of the nuts, the dies, it's designed to go over, and it is designed to clean up damaged threads. Now, sometimes you do need to take a tap or a die to clean off the threads because they're damaged to that extent. But a lot of times, if the threads just have gunk build up in them, or they're, you smacked it with a hammer a little bit, something like that, you really need to use a rethreading kit and not a tap and die cutting kit. Also, if you don't have these are excellent to have around. So, like, you got, here's anything that's got a 16 thread. This has an 18 thread, 11 and 12, 13 and 14, 20 and 24, and it's a thread file. You just, let's see, since I have a metric bolt over here, and I said it was 1.5, right there. Is it 1.5? No, it's 125. But you run it like that, and it'll clean up the threads, and it doesn't really cut. It'll even them out, it'll smooth them out, it will fix like mushroomed over or slightly stripped out threads, like cross-threaded. But I think you'd have to be super aggressive because the file's not it's not extremely abrasive, like in comparison to a traditional flat file or rat tail file or something along those lines. So yeah, you should probably have one of these kits handy. They also make it's not a nut, and I don't have one to show as an example, but there is a rethreading tool, and it usually, I'm gonna screw it up. If I can find a picture, I'll post a picture. If I can figure out how to find a picture and post it in video. But basically what it'll do is it'll wrap around the threads and wrap around here, and you can run it around, and it'll clean and smooth and fix everything. So that's pretty basic. It's just what it is. Like I said, you do you. You should also have a set of thread gauges that just comes in handy. You get SAE, got metric. They'll tell you the pitch of the thread pitch on it. But yeah, they're two separate tools with two very separate uses. Well, I guess not very separate, but distinct uses. And remember, when you're using a tool that's designed to cut, there's always the chance that you could lose material. And if you're in a position where, the threads are machined a specific way to provide clamping load when you torque the bolt down. If you put that tap in there or you run that die nut across it and you cut some of those threads away, you're decreasing the amount of torque load that you can put on there and then that can hold. In some instances, that's not going to make a hill of beans of difference. And in others, you're going to really, it can end badly. I'm not saying it will. I'm not doomsdaying it. It's a situation you need to be aware of. So yeah, let's pause up for a minute. All right. So hopefully I am both in camera and actually turned the recording on, because I'm wonderful at this. Yeah. So moral of the story: don't refer to fasteners by the dimensions of the head. And even though I'm pointing and I don't know if you can see it. Even though taps and dies have worked to fix threads for eons and eons, your grandfather, my grandfather, great grandfather, whatever, it's not always, just because it works, it's not always the right tool. Sometimes it's the only tool. It's not always the right tool. If you have the option, try to use the right tool first. If not,
everything's a hammer when you don't have a hammer. Just apply that mentality, okay? Get out, have fun, do something you like.